Hello and welcome to this SwiftUI video. In a previous video, I showed you how to create a simple form using SwiftUI. Now I've taken that same project and we've just extended it to use the JSON placeholder data here to download the user one and then display all of the different information within inside their own section and so on. And if we change any part, if we change any part of this one form, you can see the save button comes, and if we put it back to normal how it was, it'll only allow you to save if the state of the form has actually changed in itself. So if we put one here, you can see if we change this one down to then .com or something, then the button comes up. Otherwise, if we set it back to org, it has the initial state, so it means nothing has changed, meaning you're not doing any network requests if the state has not changed anyway, and you're not doing any extra work that's not required. With that demonstration now all out the way, let's get started. Before we start moving on to the code, let's just have a look at how it was in the previous video if you haven't seen it. It was just basically the name, the surname, and then also a picker view with the title. And if we added some data here, you could see that the save button would come up. It's basically the same as the other one that I've just showed you, but with different fields. So now we've had a look at what it looked like in the previous video. There's a couple of things that we're going to change before we move on to adding the new parts of it. Is you can see here that I've created this other history folder with simple form 110. This was the previous video. And this is also then containing the person model. Inside of our content view, we're actually going to add another view down here, and we're going to use user instead, because it has other different properties that our person doesn't have for the time being. So we're going to have to change it, and we're just going to say codable, identifiable, hashable as well here, and we got an ID. Which we want to have an ID, which is then an int, and then name is a string, and then we've got username is a string, and we've got then email. Email is a string, and we're going to leave out the website, the address for the time being. I'm going to put phone, and then we've got websites. And that is everything. So we've got name, username, email, phone, and website. Name, username, email, phone, and website. And the only thing that you can change right now is the ID. We're not generating anything. All we're doing is reading stuff and then going to change it. Okay, so let's come to our content view and change this to be user instead. And we can just change this to be user. As we know, we have a username instead of a surname. So we change this to be username instead. And we're going to have this user as optional in the beginning. All right, so we're just going to say hello if let user is equal to user. And then, then we're going to say here, we're going to say a binding is equal to binding. And there we're going to say users don't want users, want user. And when we're inside of this, this is where we're actually going to create the actual form inside of here. All right, and we don't have a user here is completed. We don't have that for the time being, but we're going to fix it in a second. And title we're not going to have in this one because it doesn't have a title on the JSON placeholder. Okay, we can then change, take the binding here instead. So we now have direct access to the binding. All right, let's remove this is completed, and we'll add it in a second. So now we have this, and we can just make this user to be nothing because we don't need to check it. So now we have this, we want to be able to load the person data from JSON placeholder website, and we're just going to come here and add the URL string here, and it's going to load users one. All right. And so let's start doing this. We've got the URL and URL string and URL string. And next minute, URL session shared data task publisher for URL, and then map and then $0 data. And then we want decode, and we're going to say a user self JSON decoder. And then we're going to say receive on run loop main, and then we're going to say here sync the completion I'm not really that interested in, so we're just going to remove it. And we'll say here the user, and then self user is equal to user. And we have to then import combine instead as well. And come in here and just say cancelable and set any cancelable, and that has to be a state property as well, otherwise we can't update it. There we go, and we're going to say store in cancelable here. Okay, so we should now have a user instead, right? We should now have a user instead. Oops. Let's just have a look at this. What's going on here? Oh, there we go. So it was working. It just decided to not work on the preview. Oh, that's strange. Oh, okay, we still got that one down here. I need to change that back to be there. Happy days. And so you can see it's working now. All right, and let's now make this completed version on the user, and it's just going to be a boolean, and we're going to say name is empty and username is empty and email is empty and phone is empty and website is empty. And we'll copy and paste this. Yes, 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 yes. And now we can add our button back again if binding completed. Then we can say button save, and we can say print our user is get only. And there we go. All right, so we can press save, and we see that we don't have all of the items yet because why is that not doing? Oh, previews. Sorry, my mistake. Let's print out the user once again, and you can see we're getting the user. It's all of the information is there, so we know the information is there. So now we can come down to here, and we've got the email, and here, and the next one we've got then the phone, and let's just copy paste this and copy paste this as well. The website's phone, websites there, phone there, email there. Happy days. So we know that if any of these are empty, it goes away. We don't care about the formatting of it, and we get save, and we get everything that we want here right now. So this is how we can now download the information from JSON placeholder websites and add it. And obviously in this save button, you would then, as long as, because the completed is all well and good, but what we want to know is that when we do download it, let's just say here var initial state and user, right? We're going to say here if initial state is equal to user there instead. If the user is not equal to initial state and binding is completed, all right, is here. So if we put this back to Brett, you can see here that we don't get any changes. So only when we actually make changes are we going to see the save button. If we put it back to how it was, we don't see any changes because there's no point updating anything if nothing has changed. So this is a simple way of being able to do this, is just by realizing what the initial state was in the beginning and after that. Now, if you want to make it a little bit easier, let's just call it say form state here. You could say say here current user, and user, and then initial user here, and we could just say form states. So form state here instead. Come to this, get rid of that cancelable form state instead, and we'll do form state current user. That's better. And then we can come here and say form state, and here we can say then changed, and boolean is current user is equal to initial user. So, and if say has changed, and if it's not, if they're not equal to each other, then we know they have changed. So here we can say form state has changed and is completed. We can say form state here as well, and we want to say form states and initialize this with the current user is this here, and the initial user is this here as well. Let's get rid of that and come back to here, and this doesn't have to be optional either. We can just come to it like that, and we can get rid of that question mark too, and we want then current user. Okay, this should be working now. Let's just rerun this in the actual simulator just to see that it is working, and let's change this to T, and obviously we changed it, put it back again, and we'll change the telephone number to here, and it's all working. Let's change this to .com, and we're all working. Happy days. So now we can change the name. We're all working. Happy days, right? So this is how we can do it, and naturally you can extract this to a view model. We can extract this to another file as well, and we can go from there. So this is now having it updated as well. So maybe in the next video we'll talk about adding then the address on. All right, so we can link to another page to then show the address instead, or otherwise the company, by adding those properties to this one user to show you how you can navigate backwards and forwards and use binding to know. Yeah, anyway, with that said, I hope that you've got something out this one video. Yeah, I hope you've learned something from it. I hope it's brought you something new. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and if you do have any questions, feedback, or concerns, then don't forget to start a conversation with inside of the comment section down below. Other than that, my name's David Thorne. Thank you very much for watching. Ciao, ciao, and goodbye.